Alright guys, so we're going to do a little quick review on protons, neutrons, and electrons. Okay, we're going to find out first what they are, where they're located, what they have, what kind of charges they have, and then how to calculate these numbers. Alright, so step number one, we're just going to go very simple with a proton. So a proton starts off with it being positive. Okay, so a proton is positive. An electron is negative, and then finally our neutron, which is a good way, neutral neutron, there's no charge here. There's no charge. So it's always really important to understand where these are located. Now, protons, okay, we have our model here. We're going to call this the nucleus, which is the center of the atom. Okay, that's our nucleus. Now, inside the nucleus, we have our positive protons, and then we have some of our neutrons, which I'm going to leave blank. So our nucleus has these. Now, what that means is that the nucleus is very dense. There's a lot of things in there. So that means that our protons have a mass. Electrons have a mass as well. Oh, sorry. Electrons do not have a mass, and neutrons have a mass. Now, that's going to make a lot more sense when we start calculating what these are when we're looking at an element square. So let's draw a little model here. So right here will be our protons and our neutrons, and then on the outside, we're going to call these either shells, orbitals. Okay, shells, orbitals, the cloud, or energy levels. So whenever you think of these terms, energy levels, always remember that these are the energy levels that basically have the electrons on the side. So I'm just going to draw a little electron here. And then in here, we have our protons and our neutrons. So that's our basic atomic structure. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's suppose we have a little element box here. So let's say we have carbon. So carbon has 6 up here and 12 down here. Now, we're going to call this right here our atomic number. We're going to call this our atomic mass. Now, if you notice, when we talked about mass earlier, neutrons and protons have a mass. So that means that this number right here is the nucleus, right? It basically is the weight of the nucleus. So what's really interesting about this, guys, is that this is how we can find our particles, right? So one very easy way to remember this, guys, is a term here that we call ape man. Okay? So you've heard all these little acronyms like please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right, for order of operations. Now in this case, the A here means atomic number. Now why is ape all there together? Our P stands for protons and electrons. Oh, so then here, carbon has 6 protons and 6 electrons, right? But how do we get our neutrons, right? How do we get our neutrons? So that's where the man part comes over here. So we're going to call this our mass number, which is the same thing, guys, as atomic mass. Okay, it's just a really different way of saying it. Now, this one here is going to be our atomic number. Now, okay, now what do we do here? Right, how do we get our neutrons? I'm going to put a little line here. You subtract. You subtract the bottom from the top. You subtract your mass from your atomic number, which is going to be equal to your neutrons, right? 8 man. That's just one kind of interesting way, guys, of remembering how to get your particles. Now, let's look at our neutrons here. 12 minus 6 is 6. Now down here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do another example, right? I'm going to make this pretty simple. So I'm going to get my little box down here, and I'm going to use oxygen, right? So oxygen has an atomic number of 8 and a mass of 16, or 15.99999. Now, what do we do with those numbers? You round, right? You don't want to be working with decimals here, guys, okay? There's no such thing right now as a 0.5 or 1.5 proton, 1.5 neutron. No, let's work with whole numbers. So then here, guys, my protons would be 8, and my electrons would also be 8. Now, what about my neutrons? 16 minus 8 is 8. Now I picked these two because it's just a lot easier, right? And you're going to be using carbon and oxygen, guys, a lot. Okay, carbon and oxygen a lot. So always remember, guys, you start off with your charges, how much mass they have, where they're located. So we're going to put up here location, right? So we know those are in the nucleus, electrons on the outside, and then we break down exactly how many subatomic particles.